Okay, so here we go. Security webinar. Well, of course, who we are. Mobile Viewpoint was founded in 2008 as part of a company called Triple IT. And Triple was a company founded in the 90s that was basically in IP development. So building websites, building apps for phones, etc., etc. And one of the things they did, if there was a technology that they think could be viable, as a technology itself, but also as a company, then they would go after that. And that's basically how Mobile Viewpoint started, with the introduction of 3G, introduction of new encoder types that made it, the quality better, basically. We're based in Alkmaar, the Netherlands, and for people that want to know where that is, it's about 30 kilometers above Amsterdam, so a little bit more in the north. Well, we are a technology market leader in the sense that we've always operated on the forefront. When this technology basically started to develop, we were the first ones to be involved. We were the first ones to do 4K over 4G. We were the first ones to do H.265 encoding, the new encoding type, etc., etc. And then of course we do IP contribution solutions for live broadcast and security, and that's basically been for a long time been our main business. And this means just streaming live video over any type of IP connection you can think of in a high quality. And for broadcast has been our starting point. Broadcasters were looking for new technologies to replace SNGs in some cases, or to go live in situations where they couldn't before. So that's where we grew over the last years very quickly. Security always lagged behind a little bit. I think the adaptation rate of this technology in the industry was slower. For good reason, but now of course that's changing. We see a lot of changes, so that's why we organize this webinar as well. Another business or part of our business is the AI powered solutions that we do, and these are different flavors, but basically what we do is we create images in which we can do detecting, we can do tagging, we can do recognition, etc., etc. So for, let's say, sports production, we can automate a sports game completely. So follow the ball, follow the players, etc., etc., fully automated. And for security, of course, we can detect persons of interest or people that are trespassing or anything of the sort. But a little bit more about that later. Now we are operating worldwide. That means we have some of our own offices and a lot of resellers and distributors that represent us throughout the world. And we work with people, with companies that are well established, that we train well, and that we make sure have proper units and information so they can help you out locally as well if need be. All right. Now, who do we work for? Obviously, also interesting. Well, this shows you a bit of everything, a bit of broadcast, a bit of security, a bit of, different types of media. Let's say the Red Bull Media House, of course, does a lot of things, from events to traditional television. But there's BBC is in there, of course, as a big broadcaster in the UK and outside, obviously. But also my favorite football club, Ajax in Amsterdam, is there. So a large variety of clients, just to give you an idea. And then also, of course, we have some use cases. This is our Airlink encoder by the beach, I guess. Just a nice picture just to show you it goes anywhere, live anywhere, obviously. In this case, it has a separate dome, which is connected with a Harting connector, so you can easily take it off. And put on another antenna, for example, in a vehicle. I will later show you how we normally do it with the antennas. It's a little bit different. This is a studio setting, and this is, of course, reporting in a disaster area. And I believe this was a very big fire in Spain that the reporter is talking about. Now, also, one of the things I'm going to talk about is the difference between us and many of the solutions that are used right now. is that we are able to move from network to network very quickly. So you see cars and motorcycles in this case. And to give you an example, we work for a client that has high-speed cars that they use on the road for following you. You can think of the reasons why. Those cars can go to 250 kilometers and above an hour, and they are still able to create a high quality video using our system and streaming that video out to the endpoint. So I'm going to talk about that obviously because that's one of our biggest advantages. And this shows you the different situations or the different options for the sports package, the AI camera, where we have standard cameras that we run through our own hardware devices and software. And this is actually a camera we built ourselves, so stationary camera for sports or for security. Obviously, it's all ruggedized and waterproofed, heat-proofed, etc. All right, but what do we do? What is why are we here? Our mission, so to speak, is to deliver reliable, cost-effective solutions for live video transmissions using mobile IP networks. And basically, what we mean by that is that we create a device. I'll show you here. It's called, in this case, it's called a BaseLink. And this is a device that has all connectivity inside to basically go live anywhere in the world under any condition. Now it's relatively small. To give you an idea, this is about the size of my hand. It's a little bit smaller in the width. And of course, it's not very deep. In this case, it's actually also able to go on the back of a camera, but obviously we can take those off. It becomes even a little bit slimmer. Now, to give you an idea on how this works, you just hook it up to a camera. That can be an SDI connector like this or an HDMI connector, whatever you like. You give it power, either with battery or just socket to wall socket power. And, this is a screen and basically the on button. So all you have to do is hook it up to power, hook it up to a camera, press the on button, and presto, you go live. So this is the sort of device we provide our solution with. We have a lot of units. If you look on our website, for example, www.mobileviewpoint.com, you see a lot of products on the product page, but basically they all do the same thing, streaming in high quality, low latency to an endpoint anywhere else in the world over mobile IP connection. So that's really what we try to do here. All right. Now, this is what the workflow looks like. The unit you see here is the BaseLink I just showed you, but we also have apps for the MacBook and for the iPhone. We also have different sorts of encoders. This is called an AirLink. It's a little bit different unit. It has some different capabilities. And then what they do, these units connect to either Wi-Fi or LAN connection, but mostly it's used, of course, to go to 4G or 5G connections. So they go to cell towers. We always tell people to put in as many SIM cards as the unit can handle. Either 2, 4, 6, or 8. And then based on that, and also get different providers. So based on that, you can always find connectivity that's good enough to actually stream out. Now, what happens then? It's, we manage that stream. It lands on the point of destination, on the server side. It's a unit like this. It's the decoder, which is always at the back end. I have this one in 2 flavors. One is for 2 decoders, one is for 4 encoders. So it means it can decode 2 or 4 encoders at the same time. And on this server, you can just traditionally output it and show it on the same SDI or an HDMI screen like your television, or you can redistribute it in a network. So you can go point to point or point to multi-point, which is sometimes important if there's more parties of interest that want to see the live stream. Okay, so this is what the flow looks like. Now, of course, why is there a challenge with streaming? There are devices out there that have one SIM card or switch between one SIM card and another SIM card. And those devices are relatively cheap. So why shouldn't you buy them? And then if I get the questions, I tell people if they fit your use case, then of course you should buy them. And what are those use cases? If you are, let's say, always in a fixed location, let's say in an urban area where coverage is good, where there's not too many people, because they might also interfere with you. So at a location where if you are going to be there, you're going to be able to go live and not move around, because if you move around, you need to change from network to network, which is hard to do if you only have one SIM inside. So the one SIM card solutions have their own place. We're not competing with those. But what's the problem, of course, if you have an encoder that sends out a fixed stream and it has to go over one data connection, and we all know that 4G and 5G, it goes always a little bit up and down. It's never like linear, it's always moving. Then at some point, if there's a dip, what are you going to do? It's like a water pipe, if there's a liter per minute streaming through it and all of a sudden it goes to 900 milliliters, then what are you going to do with the residual water? You get like, now, the same happens with video. If you are encoding video, basically what you do is you create little packets and little packets of data. And if you stream it over one connection, let's say the cars are the packets, the road is the data stream. If it looks like this, it's totally fine. Lots of road space, everybody drives at the same speed, that's fine. But what happens if the data drops, the road becomes a little bit smaller, and all of a sudden those big parts, they're not able to go over it. So what happens? You start to lose packets. Now, if it's a single SIM card solution or dual SIM card solution, what will you see? Freezes, hicks, black screens, stuff like that, because the encoder needs to restart again once the connectivity is good. Which is in some cases not so bad, but if you are in security, for example, you don't want it at the point that it becomes interesting to have suddenly issues. If you have to explain to your boss that, oh, I didn't have the video because we didn't have the right solution, and obviously nobody gets happy because of that. So we have a solution for this, obviously. Basically means we do two things. First of all, we do adaptive encoding and multiplexing. So that means encoding is basically taking a video and audio stream and turning it into a data stream. And the second is multiplexing, is basically the bonding of those different connections. So let's say a unit like this has 6 modems, Wi-Fi and LAN connection inside. So if you take those 8 connections, we create a pipe basically that's big enough to send over high quality video at a low latency. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit on how we do it. Because what happens is if you create that pipe, you still get, that these connections go up and down a bit. Even if it's the bigger pipe, it may go down at a certain point. For example, you are entering a building, you go down the stairs, you get less and less connectivity on all connections. Then what happens is we do adaptive encoding. So basically we code the package, make smaller packets so we can more easily get them through the line. And we also make sure we are as fast with those packets as possible. So we measure on the front end, on the encoder end, what the quality of a connection is. And so let's say if there's 8 connections, connection 1 is going down, but connection 2 is still good, then we start using 2 to 8 a little bit more instead of 1. And if we see them all go down, we can even tell the encoder to go down a little bit in quality so that it can still go through. And by this way, you're actually able to send over video, let's say at 200 kilobits per second still. Obviously, this is basically what I'm showing you now. So if the total pipe goes down, we bring down the quality. If just one connection fails, we just move a little bit more data to the other connections that we do have available. Also, we always, you have the option to prioritize. You can prioritize 2 things in this unit. One thing is which connection you use. So let's say you have a free LAN connection or a free Wi-Fi connection. You can set the priority for that one higher, and for the other ones a little bit lower. So we use as much of the free available data, and then only then when it's needed use the other residual data. You can also set a certain modem higher because you have a priority SIM card in there, or a SIM card that has unlimited data or whatever. So you can set that all yourself. And then if it's necessary, we start using the other ones more. But if they're all equal, we try to use each modem a little bit as much the same as much as we can, so you don't burn through the data packages too soon. So what is the solution then? Basically, this is a visualization of what I just described. The road, same problem again. So we create smaller packets, as you can see now, and if they can't go through, we just start moving them over the other connections that are available. So this is basically the technical side of the streaming that we do. All right. Now, the second thing you can prioritize on this unit is we do basically three kinds of streams. We have the video stream, which we usually prioritize as number one. We have the audio stream, which we usually prioritize as number one if it's there, because if all goes down, and at least we have audio. If there's no audio, like in many security cases, of course, we prioritize video as number one. But let's say always these two are the number one priority, because you do not want to interfere with your normal live stream, obviously. But additionally, you can also have like a normal data channel, which means that while you're in the field, you can actually connect, a laptop, let's say, to the hotspot in a device like this, and use the residual data to connect to, headquarters, or, to do whatever needs to be done. So that's a nice added feature on this unit. But in case you use it, we still always prioritize the live feed, so that never gets into trouble. So those packets are mixed in and then, pushed through as separate data channels. So we can actually say, okay, in this case, audio first, video second, and data third, for example. All right. Now, use case time, because of course, that's part of what we were going to show here is, how can this actually be used, and why are we now focusing more on broadcast, on security. And the drone usage is actually one of the biggest reasons, because we get a lot of requests and do a lot of sales at the moment for drone usage. Now, this is of course drones used for security, so it's a little bit higher end, but it doesn't have to be. This can be a simple drone that has a camera on it, as long as the controller has something like an HDMI or an SDI or a mini SDI output, anything that we can ingest in our system, it will already work. On the other hand, it will also work with the very high-end spectrum drones. You have the RC drones that can fly away at long distances. It will work fine with that. But also the same goes for these cable drones, the drones that are up in the air for 8, 9, 10 hours. And then our unit can connect to it. On the ground, it will connect to the controller again, ingest the feed from the controller, and it can stream for as long as you like, because all those units are also set up so they can stream 24/7 if need be. Now, what is this used for? This goes from anything from remote surveillance to fire detection, in skyscrapers, so they can see where the fire is, or industrial fires, let's say in oil and gas. Of course, if something goes wrong, you always need to know as best as you can where the real hotspots are. Now, drones are often used for that. It can also be for, cable inspections for electricity company, these high power, high voltage lines. This can be for police, doing, keeping an eye on if there's riots or anything going on. So this could be anything, basically. And now the thing, of course, is that the connectivity in that case between the drone and the controller is there. That's not the issue. But the thing is that the person that's flying the drone is not usually the one that takes the decision of what needs to happen. Of course, he's the drone pilot, and maybe the camera pilot, that's all possible. But somebody else, of course, needs to see that video often. And that's where the challenge comes in, because that means you need to take that video and deliver it somewhere else, in high quality, because they need to be able to recognize people or recognize issues, and in low latency, because if you want to talk back to the drone pilot and tell them to now move left, move right, then it can be some delay, obviously, but it shouldn't be like taking a minute, if you see the normal online streaming sometimes does. Okay, so what does the setup look like? Okay, here we go. This is our picture of a drone. I have no idea which brand it is, but at least it has a camera under there, so that's good. And it has a controller with, I guess, an SDI output in this case. Now, the drone connects to the controller. So basically all that the drone pilot has to do is, he attaches the controller and the transmitter. He attaches them together over a cable. He turns on the transmitter. That's all he has to do. Then just fly the drone and fly where you need to go, and that's it. So the drone pilot can really focus on what he's doing. Now, this transmitter is then transmitting over any type of connection you've made available. So 3G, 4G, 5G, LAN, Wi-Fi, satellite, beacon, whatever is there, we can use it. And the system itself connects to a server in the backend, the decoder, which I've shown you before. And we have a platform. It's called Link Matrix, and this manages everything. And this could be, we have a cloud-based version, which is very popular in broadcasting, but in security, a lot of clients say, some clients actually use the cloud-based solution because it is fine and well protected. But if clients want a local version, we can just provide the local version. And in that local version, you can exactly tell if the stream comes out where it needs to go. So in this case, it goes to the control room where they can then share it with somebody else. So in another location, let's say. Also, if any changes need to be made on here, it doesn't have to be the drone pilot. He can do it or she can do it, just on the screen. But also the people on the receiving end can log on to this Link Matrix platform and just, basically log on to the unit and make changes. If they say, okay, we want the quality to be a little bit higher or the delay to be a little bit lower, then the people on the back end can also do that. So they don't have to interrupt the drone pilot doing its job. Also, here is an IFB channel. So this is IFB is a communication, an audio channel from the control room going back to the controller. And this control room could be like a command center or anything. So the people there can actually talk to the drone pilot and tell him, for example, you need to fly left a little bit more. You go a little bit here, a little bit there. So there's real interaction also going on, which means that, if there's an incident, you can actually fly multiple drones and say, you go here, you go there. And while they're in the air, tell them to do what, so that you get a clear and good picture. So this is one of the main use cases we get a lot of questions about. And I do have a small clip. This was actually on television. It's a program that follows the police. In this case, there were riots, and the police use a drone with our unit, which you will see on the backpack carried by the policeman. So let's start the video. So he's setting up the drone. He hooks it up to the controller, our unit. And then if you look here, here's our backpack with the unit inside, and the drone pilot can just fly and focus on what he needs to be doing. In this case, there's one drone pilot in this case and one camera operator in this scenario. And then this image is sent back to the command center, on the other side of the country, where they can take a decision if this scenario is dangerous and if action needs to be taken or not. So this is the number one. We get a lot of questions about it. So if you have any interest or any questions, let us know. Now, another one that I would like to talk about today is about the vehicle business we are in. And we call it vehicle because this could be pretty much any type of vehicle. I was hoping to have a guest today to talk a little bit more about the drone use case and this use case. Unfortunately, he fell ill over the weekend, so he isn't able to make it today. But I will tell you a little bit more about the use cases they have. And of course, once he's better, I hope to see him here in another webinar soon. But vehicles in this case is very wide. Could be police cars, could be a fire truck, could be a tank, could be a helicopter. These units also work if you put a normal antenna on it that we provide also. These units can go 600, 700, 800 meters up in the air and fly quite fast while still filming. So we often work for police for surveillance purposes with that type of solution also. So anything that's moving, basically we can operate in. Now, in these tanks, of course, they are in an anti-vibration case. So there are sometimes local adaptations that we can make that we can either do with you together or we can provide solutions for. Now, another question I often get is, of course, yeah, that's great, but you use public networks and, we are in security, so that's not an option. Now, there's two answers to that. The first one is that it doesn't have to be a public network. There are countries where the government has their own private networks, their own private networks, so to speak, even though they're public. But also, for example, I have a client that does battlefield scenarios, their army, obviously. And each tank and each vehicle carries their own 4G antenna, and in that way they create actually a network between all those vehicles, and we stream over that private network to their command center. So even though the carrier is a little bit different, the solution still works exactly the same. The other thing that I can tell you about it is a little bit about security. If you look at how we do our bonding and streaming, it's already, and basically the way we do it already adds security. So the one thing we do is AES encryption. That means just the whole stream is encrypted and decrypted at the receiving point. So that's already in most cases more than enough. But because we use multiple connections, let's say in this one we have 8 connections in there, and we distribute our packets over it. So even if you were to hack into one of those connections, you would still get 1/8 of the stream you would be able to see. But the problem is with 1/8 of the information, you couldn't even build any part of this image. So even if you were to hack into one of those connections and you were able to hack through the AES encryption, which is probably pretty hard to do, then still you wouldn't end up with any information that you could really use. And also same thing goes for even if you would hack into, let's say, an operator, like a telecom operator, same thing. You use multiple connections from multiple operators. So even then you wouldn't end up with a usable piece of information. So that's why in many cases, security companies use public networks in a way so that it's still safe and well. All right, now let's look at what this looks like. Now, in this case, it's a little different, obviously. First of all, the drone is in this case a satellite. So the video originates from this vehicle. Let's say there's a camera here. And then in a lot of countries, we see that still, for example, KA is used as one of the primary ways to transmit security types of video. So we can just use that. Like I told you before, we can prioritize certain connections. So in this case, if you would hook up the modem of the satellite to the LAN port of our unit, we can prioritize that. So you stream most of it, or all of it if you can, over the satellite. But in case the connection goes down, or in case you do not have line of sight with the satellite, which you need to have obviously, in that case we automatically start using these other connections, these 4G connections. And then, of course, the follow-through is the same way as I showed you with the drone as well. Now, I have a client that I always like to talk about because they were one of the first to do this. They're based in France, called Canal Plus, a French television station. And when they built their new vehicles, they outfitted them with our units also. And they told us they loved the unit because in Paris, they're older cities, obviously, Marseille, Paris, of course. In these cities, they have narrow streets and relatively high buildings. So if you drive up somewhere, you can pop up your satellite, but if there's no line of sight, it won't work. So what they do in their case, they just, while they're driving, they already switch on the equipment so they can, if they go to an event or if they go to, let's say, something went wrong, they already can film driving up there using the 4G connections. Then once they are there, they pop open the satellite dish. If it can find connectivity, then it will automatically start using that connectivity. And if it doesn't, then it will continue using the 4G streams. So in that case, you don't need all that knowledge from the operator of the van. They can focus on driving. They can focus on making the video. They can focus on whatever they need to focus on. And in the back end, the system basically takes care of the whole workflow here. So that's one of the other things that one of the other options that we have. Now, I've already talked about this a little bit. This is the platform. Like I said, this could be a cloud-based version that you could use, but this could also be just something installed in your office on the server. And basically what you see in this case is here are your encoders, which are in the field. These are your decoders, which are wherever you like them to be. And you can just drag and drop an image from encoder to decoder, and then automatically it will connect to this output and it will automatically play out here. If you also wanted to play out here, you do the same thing. You just drag and drop this same tile here, and then it will output in this location, wherever that may be. So basically the whole workflow you have here basically by just swiping and dragging and dropping, and that's it. Also, this platform has a second layer. In this second layer, you can do actually all sorts of settings on the box. You can even, the GUI that's on here, you can even load on your screen. And then you can basically just make the settings yourself, or you can even log on to the box yourself and do some more in-depth settings. Now, most of our clients don't use it that much, but our support uses it in case a client calls with an issue. We have a 24/7 support desk here. They can help you out, and if you allow them access, obviously, in that case, they can even log on for you and help you change the settings. And I think 98 or 99% of our support questions are resolved using this system, so online, without physically being there. So a very nice tool that makes it a lot easier for more people to use it, because the learning curve is very, very short. Now, of course, what's coming up? First of all, what I wanted to show you, this is one of the units that I just talked about that was installed in a tank. So this unit is actually in an anti-vibration cage inside the tank. It's connected with this hearting, or it has this hearting connector. You can stick a small dome antenna on it if you're walking outside. Once they're inside, they take off the small antenna and just hook up the connector of the big antenna on top of the vehicle, and then they stream live. And then on the receiving end, you have these decoders. Again, in this case, the client wanted them in army green. Obviously, we can do pretty much any color, but black, red, and army green are usually the colors we see most. Now, also, of course, these units are not always, the products we have are not always a perfect match, of course, for your use case or for your client's use case. So in those cases, we are very able, and we manufacture everything, we design everything, we develop everything. So in case changes need to be made, we're actually able to do that very well. Now, I do have some examples of that, because these are some products and projects we're working on currently that I can tell you about. The body cam is a solution which is based on the Terralink Mini. If you look on our website, it's like a very small box. It can have 2 modems inside. And we've come up with a solution to actually mount it on the belt with an interchangeable battery. So you can basically stream continuously. And this can be hooked up to a normal camera that you can walk around with, or this can be hooked up to a camera which you can put on your uniform or on a helmet or wherever you like to be, like a very small camera. Now, this, of course, is a sort of solution for the more high-end body cam. This is not for like your standard let's walk around and see if we find something, but this can actually also be used for, the quality is so good that it can actually be used for detecting, faces and putting them up to a database of yours, so you can do face recognition, for example, on it. Now, the second thing we're working on is based on the cameras that I talked about before, the sports solution, or at least I'll show you the videos of that. And basically what we do in this case is we automate bridges and sluices, but this could be basically anything. This could be a gate that we're operating. This could be, anything you like. But the scenario is that right now in the Netherlands, we have a lot of sluices, of course, and those are all operated remotely. Now, abroad, there may be a little bit less of them, but most of them are now operated remotely. And what happens is that, they're done with normal cameras, but the problem is if you don't know the location, you can create a little map of where each camera is, but still, especially at night, or if the weather is bad, it's very hard to determine, if you don't know the bridge, exactly, what you're looking at and when it's completely safe. I've, for example, seen a video from a bridge operator that tells a sluice operator that he actually saw 2 boats, 2 top lights coming at him. And then a couple of minutes later, he checked his screen again, and he saw 2 top lights in the sluice. So he pressed the button to lower the door, and then he saw what seemed to be a 3rd top light from a boat coming in. And it turned out that 2 cameras were actually positioned that they would overlap, and then that's why he saw the 2, which was basically 1 boat. And the person was actually very emotional about it, because he said, there were living souls on that other boat, of course. If he would have lowered it, it would have been a major accident. So what we do now is we basically, with these cameras, these 180 cameras, we can create a complete overview of the sluice or of the bridge. We can show exactly where everything is. But also, let's say if you're opening up a bridge, you're going to close the barriers for cars and pedestrians so that they cannot go over it. What our system does, it will assist you in that all of those steps. So first, it will detect, is it safe to, it will lower those beams. Is it then safe to open? And you have 3 flavors. Green, yes, we don't see anything that's, interesting or that matters. So go ahead and open it. So it will open. Then there's orange. We detect something, but we don't know what it is. So can you take a look at it? We think it's a rabbit. Can you check it? And if you agree, let's open it up. And red is we detected something, a human or a car that's not outside of the barriers, but inside of it. So then we basically block everything until the operator says, no, this is fine. There's somebody doing work on it. And they're testing it. So, and then you can override it, obviously. So this is going to be, more, it's not so much a remote surveillance, but more the operation side of things. The third one is really the surveillance situation. We have a lot of people in gas and oil, for example, water cleaning, bigger factory operations, let's call them that. And in those cases, of course, they usually have large areas that they want to be able to monitor. I'm talking to a client right now that has 500 locations, and 100 of those locations he wants to actively control. So the 400 are, in case something happens, they need to be able to see it, but the 100 are, the main locations. Now, the problem is, of course, if they are important and you have 100 cameras coming in, you almost need maybe 10 people to monitor them constantly, because if I put 10 screens in front of you, large screens, and you have to see any movement and anything that goes on, it's very hard to do, because those people that are breaking in or doing something that they're not supposed to do, they're not trying to be very visible to you. They're not waving or shouting. They're just trying to crawl in. So, it takes a lot of manpower. And basically what we can do is we have a camera that has, or a unit that has 4 cameras inside. We stitch the images of those 4 cameras, we can stitch together to one big panoramic view. And then if we see any object moving inside, we can detect what it is and digitally zoom in. And then we can show to the operator or the person that's monitoring, we can say, hey, don't look at those other 99 screens. Look at this screen, because we see something there. And we know it's not a rabbit because we recognize it as a human or as a vehicle or as whatever it is, of course. So those are products that we are currently coming out with. Obviously, we have all the hardware, we have all the units, but we're really talking about, adapting it for specific use cases. So if you have any questions about it, do let me know. Okay, now, of course, I am in sales, so that means I have to talk a little bit about the advantages of Mobile Viewpoint. I will try to go through them quickly. First, of course, is our experience in broadcasting. We operate with hundreds of clients, maybe thousands of clients, with thousands and thousands of units every day. So the good thing is that we are already adapted to being in operation 24/7, which means support, which means that everybody is in place in case something happens. Now, the development of these units, like I said, we develop everything, we build everything, we manufacture everything. But of course, if you really look at it, a lot of these, the way the unit looks and operates is because the feedback we got from clients. So we already have a long track record in how to do this, basically. So I think that's really interesting, or a real advantage for us. A second one is I already talked about the reliability of bonding. The fact that a connection can just blow out and the other ones can just take over without any interruption, I think is a big advantage compared to other solutions. Security, of course, the multiple connections, the AES encryption, those are all things that, it takes it basically to the next level. Even if you were to decrypt it, you still couldn't do anything with the stream that you're seeing. So, really safe. Now, the platform, there are operators out there that only allow online platforms. We have a completely independent platform that can shut us out. We never see the units again. We actually have clients that bought units from us, we never seen from them or heard from them again. And of course, in case you need support, you can always allow us access or allow us to help you out remotely in those cases. So you don't really use functionality, but you just make it completely safe. And the next one, of course, is also talk a little bit about remote support. We have a 24/7 support desk here. Those people are very highly trained. They know the units inside out. 98, 99% of the cases are resolved remotely, and the other 1 or 2% are basically when people drop them, and we just have to tell them, the connector broke off. Yeah, and we actually have to physically repair that, obviously. Now also the variety of products. Like I said, if you go on the website, there's a lot of products there, but basically they all do the same thing: the streaming in high quality and low latency. But the fact that there are so many different units makes that it fits almost any scenario we can fit. I usually say that we fit 80, 90, or 100% if people come to us. Now, if it's 100%, it's great. Because then we're done. But if it's 80 or 90%, it's usually a little bit of tweaking to get it, to make it 100% fit. And also the good thing is all those units act in the same environment. So they're all managed from the same location, managed in the same way. So if you know how to operate one unit, you know how to operate them all. So that means that the learning curve, again, is very short. And then lastly, we are an IP company, so we know what's out there in the field. And the good thing is we can just output traditionally, like I said, to a TV screen or a video wall if you want to, but we're also able to deliver the stream to, let's say, a platform like Milestone, a video management platform. So you can store it there or use it there. Also, we're able to take feeds and deliver them, for example, because we do the AI recognition that I just showed you. We can do facial recognition. So if you have a camera walking around and you want to detect faces and then take those faces, we can shoot that image also back to your location, so you can have it match it against a person's database and see if it's actually the person of interest you thought it was. So there's a lot of things we can do on the route. So if you have questions about it, of course, ask me about it. All right. Now, obviously, I hope this webinar was interesting to you, but I hope, of course, that you may want to know more. There's various ways, of course, that you can do that. First of all, we have our website, www.mobileviewpoint.com. On that website, you will find all the products and all the information. If you go to the little header called Security and Law Enforcement, then you see specific information about security and everything that we talked about today. On that page, you will also see a white paper about security. Do download it. It's very interesting. There's a lot more information in there. It also shows a fact sheet for the drone situation, the drone scenario that I've just shown you, but with more information, of course, behind it. It's also very interesting to look at it. We do security shows. Right now, of course, a lot of them are online. So hopefully, if you are going to them, you're able to join and meet us up with us online. I think IFSEC is the next one. So I hope to see you there. In the follow-up email that we're going to send you, we're also going to send you the link to the LinkedIn page that we created. I like that page a lot because we put a lot of information on what we do. So use cases, new products, new features. So please go there, connect to that page, and you will automatically receive updates from everything that we're doing. And of course, these webinars will continue. So if you are interested in getting more information, or you have a client that's interested, please hook them up to us. It's going to be general webinars like this and more in-depth webinars in the future, of course, about specific use cases, and hopefully with somebody from the field like what we were supposed to do today. And lastly, of course, newsletters that we are sending out. So if you are interested, please connect through us through all these ways: website, LinkedIn, or of course contact us at sales@mobileviewpoint.com. Me or any one of my sales colleagues there will talk to you, and we'll see what we can do together. So this was the official part of my webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, of course, I'm going to see if anybody has any questions. And if you have any questions, please feel free to share them in our Q&A box. Here we go. Okay. Greetings, Tinjau Mahi. Okay, yes, no, it could actually be. Yes, I don't know if it's your picture, to be honest, but it could be. I think it was in at least in the region, so it could be that it's your system. Is the connection is transparent? Means Okay, let me read through your question really quickly. Because about system, I leave the airlink. I'm not sure the SSH. You can SSH actually to a page where we send it out to, but the protocol, so the way the connection, the way we put it through, is not necessarily that. It's a proprietary protocol that we use to do the bonding and the streaming. But if you want to know more about it, then I suggest we be in contact after this webinar, and I can tell you a little bit more on how we build it up. I think that would be interesting to talk about it. Your second question is also for you. For switching IFB between airlinks, is it possible to have a physical mechanical button? Yes, yes, it is. We actually do RCP on those units as well. And basically that that puts it in software. So that means you can have a physical switch where you go left or right. We also have the option for a 2U high decoder. Then you can actually also take out all the streams and independently switch between all of those. So yes, that's definitely possible. If you want to talk about that, please go ahead and let's touch base after this. Sir, can you send us this presentation? Yes. After, it's probably going to be on Monday, to be honest, because later this week we have a national holiday. But on Monday, I think we will send out a thank you mail to everyone, which will include first this presentation, some links to the LinkedIn page, and also a link to this video, obviously, so you can see back this video or the morning session, which is hopefully exactly the same, at least for facts. So you can see it there. So yes, you will definitely get it from me. If I want to become a reseller, how does that work? Well, the best thing to do is to contact me or any one of my colleagues, of course, and to see where you're based, what you do, and how you operate. So if you want to become a fixed, a long-term reseller, then obviously I always tell people that we look together at the area where you're in, because I do have resellers for broadcast in many locations, obviously, but a lot of those resellers are really only focused on broadcasting. So in that case, we just talk to that reseller and say, hey, if they say we're not going to move into security, then we do a contract together specifically where we move forward with security. If you just say I have a one-time deal and I have a client, so can we talk about it, then contact me, then we do just a one-time contract. That's also fine. If we don't have a reseller in the area where you're at, then obviously we're interested to see how you operate, what clients you have, and what you do, etc. And then we can do a contract, even also for broadcasting if there's no reseller there. So that would be maybe an added benefit. I don't know. So then we contact each other and we do a contract. Where do you have resellers? I think we cover around 100 countries at the moment. So, usually in smaller countries, very small countries, let's say somewhere in Africa, we're not always covered everywhere, but sometimes then we have a reseller that covers a larger area. But like I said, a lot of these resellers are focused on broadcast only. So we always talk to them, of course, and if they want to move in security, then obviously we do that together with them also. But if not, then it's like a green field that you can still step into. So yeah, basically what you can take back is take this and let's go. Let's see where it takes us. Okay, can we work together in tenders? Do you have examples? Yes, we can. Tenders, of course, if you work for publicly registered companies or governments, a lot of it is tender based if the deal is large enough, obviously. So we're very able and very experienced in working with tenders. We always do it through the local party, of course, because unless the legal side requires that we do it directly, but then we still do it together with the local party, because in the end, those are the people that need to support it locally. And do we have examples? Yeah, we go all over the world. We do, let's say, Jordan Television, TVP in Poland is tender, VRT in Belgium are examples of tenders that we did. For security, that's always a little bit tricky, because in most cases I'm not allowed to give those examples, at least not here online. So I think you understand that. Well then, well, the last remark is great webinar, and I think that since there's no other questions, I think that's a good ending point. Thank you, of course, for that, and thank you for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us here. If you have any questions or anything else in the future that you want to talk about, then obviously please connect to us to sales@mobileviewpoint.com or check one of the other ways of contacting us that I showed you before. And Syed, I just saw your message. I think you also sent a message to our website. So if it's okay with you, I will just respond to you on that email and we can continue our discussion there, or otherwise we can schedule a call later today. All right. Thank you very much. And I hope to speak to you soon. Have a nice day.